you're not supposed to cock the gun? No, you're okay.
He wanted me to cock the gun at the scene.
Okay.
He wanted it as part of the scene.
Now for what's trending in true crime, a gun safety will be a key point for prosecutors in Alec Baldwin's upcoming Rust shooting case. In a brand new filing, the prosecution is accusing the actor of engaging in horseplay with a revolver during training. They also claim that Baldwin was erratic and aggressive during filming, which brought up many different safety concerns. Prosecutors say they intend to show the actor's carelessness was not limited to the fatal shooting. A glimpse of those moments was shown during Hannah Gutierrez's trial.
Let me show you something. Hold on. Step back to your original mark. So 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, I'm getting up. Right. Then when he drops his arm, Halyna, get out. He drops his arm. That means Brady's close. I'm going to start to really get up.
Okay.
And cut. Another. One more. I forgot the recoil stuff. No, right away. Let's reload. Here we go.
So, Halyna.
All right, now Baldwin's trial is set for July the 9th. Our question this morning, what horseplay evidence could put Baldwin behind bars after this trial? Let's talk about it with our guests. I have a tremendous power panel we've assembled. Want to welcome them in now. Retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer is with us. She is also a firearms expert and trainer. Also want to welcome in criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Michael J. Brown. Great to see you both. Jennifer, I want to start with you, if I may, please. As someone who's a firearms expert, you teach safety training courses every week. What are your thoughts in hearing that prosecutors have some evidence that Alec Baldwin was unsafe on the set prior to the incident in question?
I think it's very important, Julie, because this wasn't an isolated incident. This shows, just from those clips you showed, how unsafe he was. He didn't have a toy gun in his hand. He had a real live shooting gun. He pointed that gun in the directions of others. He had his finger on the trigger recklessly, and he also was flailing it around often, at least according to these clips. And Julie, that just can't be the way someone handles a firearm safely.
No, not at all. The prosecution apparently has some pieces of evidence with him on the set to show that he wasn't careful, wasn't exercising due caution in a span of dates. And so they want to introduce this. Of course, the defense is going to push back. Michael J. Brown, talk to me here about the defense side of this. How might you push back against these prosecutors and them trying to show that there was a pattern here?
Good morning, Julie. Great question. And what the prosecutor is doing here is really trying to show propensity to commit this crime. And that's exactly what the law prohibits. So here in New York State, for instance, there's very specific reasons why you can introduce these prior bad acts on your case in chief. Things like motive, intent, absence of mistake, identity, common plan or scheme. New Mexico probably has a very similar statute. So although the prosecutor is going to argue that they need this to satisfy some of the elements, the defense is certainly going to argue, number one, that the evidence is overwhelmingly prejudicial as opposed to probative, which is ultimately the scale. But in addition, it's simply to establish propensity, which is always prohibited from doing at any trial.
Mm-hmm. Right, Michael, exactly. We can't say, you know, I was just like to use the expression my old law school professor used to use, once a thief, always a thief. We can't do that if somebody's on trial for theft. We can't bring in all these other, you know, convictions, but absolutely, right, we don't want the propensity evidence coming in to be the deciding factor. Some of the particulars here, Jennifer, let me go back to you, please. The prosecution claims that at one point during filming, Baldwin was recklessly pointing the firearm, fired a blank round at a crew member who he was using as a line of sight. What do you think when you hear that?
It's The number one rule in handling a firearm is you can never point it at anyone you are not justified to point and shoot at. And he would not have been justified to point and shoot, meaning possibly kill the person that he had the gun aimed at. We know that this was a movie scene, but you could point that gun in the air in another direction. No one would ever know. And for him to purposefully point a live shooting gun at an individual is beyond reckless.
Great points, Jennifer. Anybody who knows the first rule of firearm safety, right? We're not going to point at anything we don't intend to shoot. And these prosecutors, in their notice of intent to offer the other prior bad acts, as Michael J. Brown was explaining, they say they have evidence that he would use the gun as a way of pointing to direct the crew members around. So we'll stand by and see what happens, what the judge does with this motion. But another big domino that could potentially fall during this trial centers around his co-defendant, Halyna Gutierrez. So prosecutors have filed a motion asking the judge to compel Halyna Gutierrez, the film's armorer, to testify against Alec Baldwin. But Gutierrez's attorney, Jason Bowles, has spoken to Court TV and told us that his client is prepared to take the fifth if she's compelled to come to court.
There was never a plea deal offered to Halyna throughout this case like there was to David Halls, the assistant director, for a misdemeanor. There was to Mr. Baldwin for a misdemeanor. There was a felony plea deal offered to Halyna for the same that she got convicted at trial. This is not the normal case where you force somebody to testify, which the judge can, and then it still protects her. So I don't think it's going to protect Halyna. And we're going to assert her Fifth Amendment privilege.
I couldn't believe it when I heard this. And so we're wondering, will we actually see Halyna Gutierrez brought in as a witness against Alec Baldwin? Let's bring back in Michael J. Brown and Jennifer Coffindeffer. Michael, to you on this, please. Legally, were you stunned when you heard this, that Jason Bowles is saying they didn't make her a plea offer, then after she's convicted, after she's a felon serving her prison sentence, they say, oh, by the way, we want to give you some immunity?
Yeah, absolutely, Julie. It did shock me. She has her appellate rights. She still has that ability to assert the Fifth Amendment. So the answer is absolutely not. You will not see her testify unless, and here's the big one, the prosecutor could come forward and say, hey, we need your help to convict Alec Baldwin. And in exchange for your testimony, we may agree to set aside the verdict, get a reduced plea, a reduced sentence, and then she would be what we call a cooperating witness. And in exchange for her testimony, she'll waive her Fifth Amendment right and get a better deal or conviction. So that potentially could be there.
Appreciate it, Michael. Yeah, that was just so stunning to me after all this. And I'm not saying that Halyna Gutierrez doesn't bear responsibility in this. She does. The jury clearly found she does, absolutely. There are other people, though, who were not charged, who were given sweetheart deals, who engaged in very bad behavior. This prosecution, in my opinion, has been somewhat of a mess. And I still don't think we've gotten the answer to the question of who brought those live rounds on the set. Agent Coffindeffer, back to you on this question. The state said it was Halyna Gutierrez, but the defense contended that it was the ammunition supplier, PDQ, and a guy named Seth Kenny, who had mixed up some live rounds in with dummy rounds when they were sold off. And he had a phone call with the woman who supervised Halyna Gutierrez right after Halyna Hutchins was shot. And suddenly that supervisor started throwing away rounds. Certainly suspicious. Is it to you?
Yes, it's to me, Julie. It's very unusual, first of all, when these rounds are packaged, they would not be packaged together. So it doesn't make any sense that a manufacturer would ever mix live rounds with dummy rounds. Never seen that in my career, ever. Secondarily, at the end of the day, it stops with the person responsible for loading the weapon and the person shooting the weapon to check the ammunition to make sure that live rounds weren't loaded. And they are so significantly different looking that they're so recognizable, Julie. This isn't anything that a 3-year-old couldn't recognize as being different.
That's a great point, Agent. At CrimeCon, Dutch Merrick gave me one dummy run, and it rattles, and you hear the rattling. I mean, it's loud, like it's, you know, the little BBs in there. It's really, really stunning that this occurred, and obviously, as Dutch Merrick has said many times, a cascade of failure, sadly. We'll leave it there for now. July the 8th is the day. Mark your calendar for Alec Baldwin's trial.